Well, hello there, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. I am excited to be here with you today. Today I'm going to be, I have my Talk Leadership with Cedrick and a Cuppa Joe on the radio hat. And we're going to be going live on the radio here at IBGR in about the next 5 to 6 minutes, 7 minutes. And but I always like to come on a little bit ahead of time and get you guys ready for the show today. Today on the show, we're going to be talking about the 5 elements of emotional intelligence. So if you know someone in your organization that wants to hear a little bit about emotional intelligence, then you need to tell them to tune in, because we're going to be going deep on emotional intelligence, self-awareness today. But just to get ready for the show, again, the radio show will go live here at the top of the hour at 2:00. But I always want to come on a little bit early and just chit chat with you a little bit. So, let me start off with this story, and then we're gonna get going here. Now I'm from Louisiana, so this is gonna be a Louisiana story, right? This is old Cajun boy that was. He was, somewhat educated, and he was over. He went to University of Mississippi, and I guarantee you, this guy wasn't from Louisiana originally. So, but he had 2 old Cajun twin horses, which are very rare. And he would always say, "I can never tell these 2 horses apart." Now, one of his friends went to help him figure out how to tell the horses apart. He said, "Well, let's measure them." Now, the old Cajun guy said, "I've tried that, but I don't see that they seem to be the same." He said, "Well, they're both about 15 and a half feet high on the dot. So I can't really use that to tell the difference in them." His friend said, "Well, have you thought about trimming the tail?" He said, "Yes, I've thought of that. And that darn tail just keeps growing back every time." Well, his friend said, "Well, did you measure how long they were?" He said, "Yes." And he said, "I never thought about that before." How long they were? He said, "Well, let's measure them." Well, one of them was exactly 3/4 of a hand longer than the other one. So he thought he had a solution. He says, "See, that was easy. Now you can tell the difference. One of them is 3/4 a hand longer than the other. Now you can easily tell them apart very quickly." Now the old Cajun guy looked back at him and says, "I always thought the black horse was longer than the white horse." So folks, I'm excited to be here with you today, and I just want to tell you, I'm always excited to be here. And we're going to go live here. And we have another 4 minutes before we're going to go live. I'm going to hit the live switch on the radio show, and we're going to kick it into high gear. But since we have a little bit more time, let me see if I can just entertain you a little bit longer. Down in South Louisiana, this little town, they finally built a new 4-lane highway and a couple new red lights. They got a lot of towns that have 1 lane roads and no red lights. Well, this town had put in a 4-lane highway and a couple of new red lights. Now, I have a friend who was driving along that highway, and he wasn't totally drunk, but he was a little tipsy. He felt like driving across all 4 lanes of the highway. Driving right behind him was a preacher friend of ours, right? And the preacher was concerned about my friend who was swerving all over the road, and he couldn't get around him. Well, my lightly drunk friend lit a cigarette, and the car straightened up right away. See, the preacher was then able to pass around my friend, and by this time, the preacher was so concerned with him, he started watching the man in his rearview mirror. In fact, he was watching him too good in the rearview mirror, because the road turned, but the preacher didn't, if you know what I mean. He ran straight into an old live oak tree and tore up his car. I mean, just really tore his car up. Well, my friend was was getting kind of close to him. So he pulled up to him where the preacher was, and he struggled to get out of his car, because he was a little drunk. He struggled to get out of his car, and he goes up to the preacher and says, "Man, are you okay, my friend? Are you hurt, my friend?" And the preacher says, "Oh, no, I'm good." My friend said, "Well, you are lucky. Look at your car. It's tore up from the floor up." He said, "Not a scratch on you. Don't you realize how lucky you are?" Well, the preacher says, "Oh, no. I don't believe in luck. I'm not luck, sir. I am blessed." He says, "I'm blessed because the Lord was with me and he saved me." Well, my slightly drunk friend looked at him and says, "Well, the way you drive, you better let me ride with you, because if you don't, you're going to kill him." So, all right, folks, that's my jokes for today. So we're going to be going live. We still have another 2 minutes before we go live on the radio. And I'm excited to be here with you today. And I'm so glad that you tuned in today. And guess what? Man, I have a good show for you. The 5 elements of emotional intelligence. Now, let me tell you what. See, when you have emotional intelligence, what you have to understand is that means you have to have good self-awareness. See, sometimes you're not aware of your own self, and when you're not aware of your own self, you know what happens, right? Everybody else around you is aware. So I'm excited, and if I get a chance, I'm gonna share with you the 10 ways to increase your emotional intelligence, right? And I'm gonna give you some good tools today. I can tell you that. I'm gonna be sharing with you 5 ways to definitely define emotional intelligence. But I want to be able to, if I have time, to share with you 10 ways to increase your emotional intelligence by developing your EQ skills, right? Because that is so important for your overall success. And I'm excited to be here with you today. So the countdown clock has started, folks. We are 2 minutes and 30 seconds before that go live button and that go live switch. And today is going to be a really good show. Now, there was this old Cajun boy that wanted to go off to college, and he lived down in the swamps, and he eventually was able to go off to college, and he lived with his grandfather. His grandfather said, "Look, boy, it's going to be too far for you to be coming home all the time like that, so you just stay at college. You hear me?" His grandson said, "Okay, yes, sir, I'm going to do that." So he went off to college. He stayed. Now, as it got close to the holiday time, he wrote his grandfather a letter, and he said, "Hey, it's going to be more expensive to stay on campus during the holiday than it is to come home for Christmas." So his grandfather said, "Well, since it's going to be more expensive, you come on home for Christmas then." Now, his grandfather couldn't read or write, so he always would have someone else read his letters to him, and they would write back. So he said, "Come on home." And he came home, and they put together a big feast. Cajuns, we love cooking a lot of stuff. So they cooked up a lot of stuff, and we had a pretty good amount of food prepared for the whole town to celebrate the boy coming home from college. Well, during this celebration, the grandfather said, "Boy, you've been going all this time. Won't you tell me something you learned?" And the little boy was kind of, rebuked his grandfather. First, he said, "Oh, you're not going to understand. You're not going to understand." And his grandfather looked at him really stern and said, "Boy, I've spent all this money paying for this education that you're getting. You better tell me something you learned." Well, the little boy said, "Okay, I will tell you something I learned. I learned some algebra." So his grandpa said, "Okay, well then tell me some algebra." Now the little boy looked at him and says, "Pi r squared." Now his grandfather looked back at him and said, "Boy, you've been going all this time and that's all you learned? Pi r squared?" He says, "Boy, you don't know nothing. Everybody know that pie are round and cornbread are square." All right, folks, that's my end of my jokes for today. All right. But I'm excited that you're here with us today. We're going to get kicking off here in 10 seconds. We're in the 10-second countdown window right now. We have 5 seconds left before we hit the go live button. 3, 2, 1. Boom. We are live on the radio, folks. So welcome and hello, everyone. Welcome to my world. You're listening to IBGR Network, now known as International Business Growth Radio. Welcome to Talk Leadership with Cedrick and a Cuppa Joe on the radio. Everybody needs a little TLC and some high energy. And Carla, you're absolutely right. High energy today. I am Cedrick LaFleur, your host for today's show, and I'm excited to be here with you. We're going to be talking about the 5 elements of emotional intelligence. But before I get to that, let me tell you, what I want you to do is go to the website, to ibgr.network, and you can download the show notes, right? You can get those show notes. Now, you can also, if you're millennial, you're iGen, you are telephone app educated, then what you can do is just go to the App Store or to the Play Store, right? And you're going to type in IBGR, and you can get our app. And on the app, all of my show notes, my notes for today's show are there, and you can get them and you can follow right along. I want you to have a good time today, and I'm going to show you a good time today. So let's get running here. Today, I'm going to be talking about the 5 elements of emotional intelligence. Now, I have to start off with a story. I always start off the show with a story. And this one is really around the lack of self-awareness. People were always talking about how mean this guy who lived around the block was. But I decided, I needed to see for myself. So I went to his door and he said, "Hey, I'm not the mean guy. The mean guy lives in the house over there." And then I said, no, stupid. That's my house. You see, the mean guy was not the guy who was going to his house. The mean guy was the other house over there. So let's talk about these 5 elements of emotional intelligence. See, like most lasting ideas, the importance of emotional intelligence seems obvious in hindsight, right? Research shows developing greater emotional intelligence can lead to higher pay, to higher performance, as well as a better professional and personal lead to better professional and personal relationships, right? And I like what Justin Barizo from Inc., how he defines emotional intelligence. He says it is the ability to make emotions work for and not against you. Right now, the obvious part is the better you can understand and manage your emotions and the emotions of people around you, the greater your chances of success. Which means most of us feel like we're emotionally intelligent, right? But after all, we have to learn how to manage our own emotions. And I'm sometimes able to both motivate and inspire other people, as well as talk them down from their emotional ledge. See, self-awareness is fairly self-awareness is fairly self-evident. That just means knowing what you feel, why you feel that way, and how your those feelings either help or hinder you, and knowing your strengths and weaknesses and when to ask for help. See, a lot of us are not willing to ask for help when we need it. Self-management is also obvious, right? This is managing how you respond, especially in times of stress, conflict, and adversity. You got to stay focused on your goals. Now, Jeff Bezos puts it this way. He says, a sign of high intelligence is the willingness to change your mind when you uncover new information or new perspectives. In simple terms, social awareness is empathy. Let me say that again. In simple terms, social awareness is empathy. See, listening to others, paying attention to others, and finding common ground. That's what social awareness is. The ability to put yourself in other people's shoes, or more broadly, to put yourself in your organization's shoes. See, relationship management involves a number of skills: motivating others, mentoring others, dealing effectively with conflict, and applying an occasional dose of tough love in pursuit of a positive, not a negative outcome. You understand what I'm saying, right? Now, there are 5 elements that define emotional intelligence. So let me break these down for you. And I want to make sure that you get it, you understand it. And it's really simple. The very first element in defining emotional intelligence is self-awareness. See, people with high EI, okay, emotional intelligence, understand that their emotions and understand their emotions, and they don't let their feelings rule them. You see what I'm saying? Now, they know their strengths and their weaknesses, and they work on these areas so that they can perform better. This is how aware you are and how accurately you can assess your emotions. See, most of us are so busy with the daily grind that we rarely take a step back and think about how we're responding to situations and how we can come across, right? When we say something, or we send an email, or we send a letter, or we send a message or a text or anything like this, right? See, the other source of self-awareness is recognizing how others respond to us. This is often challenging because we tend to see what we want to see, right? And we tend to avoid the uncomfortable action of asking others for feedback. See, to grow in our self-awareness, we have to consider building time for reflection into your day. And also consider getting into the routine of collecting specific feedback from people who will be honest and whose ideas you value. Now, let me say something, folks. You can't take advice and feedback from everybody, right? Can you learn something from everybody? Sure, I guess. From a theoretical standpoint, yes, right? But you don't want to spend a whole lot of time collecting feedback from people who are not equipped to give you feedback. All right, you just have to understand that not everybody's equipped to give you feedback at where you are. I'm gonna give you an example. Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan don't need feedback from people on his basketball skills and his basketball ability. Most people, I don't think there's anybody in the world who could play better than Michael Jordan. Okay, so why are we going to spend time? Why would he spend time listening to someone tell him how to play defense better or differently? No, right? You want to take advice from, if you want swimming lessons, you at least want to go get somebody who can swim. Now you get what I'm saying? Right. See, a large study that compiled thousands of data points found that leaders who sought out negative feedback were much more self-aware and effective than those who sought out positive feedback. You just have to make sure you're getting the feedback from the right person, from the right source, because otherwise you could find yourself in a pickle, not getting good feedback, right? Now, there's a guy that started a company and he built this into a very large enterprise, and he was planning to hand over the reins to his son one day when he decided to retire. Well, one day he was walking through the factory and he observed his son angrily berating an employee in front of other people. That should never happen, by the way, right? He looked at his son and he motioned for his son to come to his office. And he said, "David, I wear two hats around here. I am the boss and I am your father." He says, "Right now, I'm going to put on my boss hat." He said, "You're fired. You're done here." He says, "I will not have that kind of behavior in my company, and I will not ever tolerate employees being treated that way." He says, "I have warned you about this kind of thing before, and you still continue to do it. So let me go ahead and let you go." Then he said, "Now, I'm going to put on my other hat, my father hat." And he paused for a moment and he put on the new hat and he said, "Son, I heard you lost your job. How can I help you?" You see, the point is this: emotionally strong people honor their relationships while at the same time guarding against letting others control them, especially in difficult relationships. I'm going to say that again. Emotionally strong people honor their relationships while at the same time guarding against letting others control them, especially in difficult relationships. See, one of the things that you have to do in increasing your emotional intelligence is you have to utilize an assertive style of communicating. Right? See, assertive communication goes a long way toward earning respect without coming across as too aggressive or too passive. Emotional intelligent people know how to communicate their opinions and needs in a direct way while still respecting others. It's important, folks. If you want to get along in this world, you have to learn how to respect others. The second thing is you have to respond instead of reacting to conflict. See, during an instance of conflict, emotional outbursts and feelings of anger are common, right? The emotionally intelligent person knows how to stay calm during stressful situations. They don't make impulsive decisions that can lead to even bigger problems. They understand that in times of conflict, the goal is a solution, and they make a conscious choice to focus on ensuring that their actions and their words are in alignment with that. You have to understand that, folks. That is if you're emotionally strong. Emotional intelligence changes how you react, how you respond, how you communicate with people on an everyday basis. And it's important in your business, it's important in your personal life, it's important in every aspect of everything that you do. If you're not strong in this area today, it's okay. You just need to work on it. You just need to be aware. Now, we're going to be going to a commercial break here in just a few seconds, but I just want you to make sure that you come back because we have a lot that we're going to be covering with you today. You're listening to IBGR Network, and this is Talk Leadership with Cedrick. Talk Leadership with Cedrick and a Cup of Joe on the radio. And you know, everybody needs a little TLC and high energy. So I am Cedrick LaFleur, your host, and we'll be right back after this short commercial break. Thank you. Now, folks who are listening in on LinkedIn and on Facebook and YouTube, you continue to listen in, folks. And I'm going to bring some good stuff to you. I'm going to bring some hot stuff to you. I'm going to bring something to you, folks, that's going to change the way you think, change the way you do things, and all this type of stuff. Now, let me tell you about this. A friend of mine down in South Louisiana, he had 3 kids, and one of them was about 10 years old. Up until he was about 7 years old, he never said a word. All he did was just sit around and he watched everybody else talk, but everybody thought he couldn't talk. All the doctors looked at him and couldn't figure it out. He could hear what everyone was saying, but he would not talk. Well, one morning he was around 7 years old, and they were sitting they were sitting around the breakfast table. Well, the little boy looked at his mama and said, "Mama, this toast is burned like the devil." Well, his mama did a backflip and she said, "Oh, Daddy, my God, this boy is talking now." The daddy lost all his food when he saw that the little boy was talking. They were jumping around for joy that the little boy could talk, and like, man, this is a miracle. We're so excited that you can talk now. After the excitement calmed down a little bit, his mother looked at him and said, "Son, all these years you never said anything. Why haven't you said anything until now?" Well, the son looked at her and said, "Up to now, everything has been okay." So, don't burn his toast and he will be all right. So let me see here, folks. We'll be coming back from commercial break in about a minute. But I love that. So let me share something with you, folks. You know, earlier this week I had an interview with a group that wrote this book called In Her Boots. In Her Boots, Sexual Assault. And this was about sexual assault that happens in the military, folks. And I just want to just quickly say, if you're in the military, if you know someone in the military, if you know your congressman, if you know any of your representatives, you need to reach out to them, because sexual assault in the military is pervasive. And unfortunately, a lot of these cases are not going prosecuted. And you just need to take a stance on this, folks. There's sometimes that you have to take a stance and say, this is not right. And that's one of those things. So we have to, I just need your help into thinking through that. But the book is called In Her Boots. And a good friend of mine is one of the authors of the book, Jeff Willie. Reach out to Jeff, and also you can order a copy of that book right on Amazon. So get that book. We're about to come back from commercial break. All right, folks, we are back, and I am excited to be here with you today. You're listening to IBGR Network. IBGR is our call sign as a radio station, but we are more than a radio station, folks. We are a network. I am your host, Cedrick LaFleur, and you're listening to Talk Leadership with Cedrick and a Cuppa Joe on the radio. And today we're talking about the 5 elements of emotional intelligence, folks. And I was sharing with you the first element was self-awareness. Okay. Now the second element is self-regulation. See, this is the ability to control emotions and impulses, right? People who self-regulate typically don't allow themselves to become too angry and or jealous. And they don't make impulsive or careless decisions. They think before they act. Now, let me tell you what, folks, sometimes this takes time for you to develop that skill, right? And sometimes it just takes age and maturity in order for you to get there. And I'm going to say, folks, when I was younger, hey, look, I was reacting right away, and that emotional that EQ wasn't too high back then. It's pretty high now, so I can control the way I respond, the way I react, and when I say something, I mean it. I don't say it just to pacify it or just to have a blanket statement. No, when I say something, I mean it and it's there. Self-management is your ability to control your emotions. See, this component it also includes your transparency, your adaptability, your achievements, and your optimism, right? See, a key factor is whether you react or respond to situations. See, I'm going to say that again. A key factor is whether you react or you respond to a situation. Now, let me ask you this. Do you react or you respond? Type in the comments. If you're listening, you can type in the comments on on Facebook, on YouTube, or LinkedIn. Do you react or do you respond? Just type in react or respond, whichever one you do. Now, here's 3 other questions you need to contemplate. When you're getting an irritating email, do you write back right away? You see, that used to get me in trouble. I would write back right away, and I learned to not write back right away. Sometimes I'll write back right away, but I'll type it up and I'll remove the to line so that I can't accidentally hit send, right? So when I send something, I know what I'm sending now. Before it was, it was a hot mess. You just would get on the my wrath, and you didn't want that. The second question I have for you is, do you sometimes find yourself regretting how you handled yourself, wishing that you had been more calm and poised in a situation? Great question to ask. Great question to think about. I like what you said, call it, you respond, right? No, I don't get it. I don't get it a bit to think. I don't give it a bit to think about it first, right? She said, no, I give it a bit to think about it first. Absolutely. That's absolutely the best way. Now, the third question I want you to ponder on is, do you lose patience or rush others? Now, you see, I'm a high D on the DISC scale. Now, let me when I say I'm a high D, I just want you to understand my level of D-ness. Right. I recently took another DISC assessment, a different type of DISC assessment, and it gave you a rating of 0 to 100 for each one of the letters. Now, my C and my S are very, very low. My I was at a 67 on that scale of 0 to 100. My D on that scale of 0 to 100 is a 99. So, yeah, do I get impatient sometimes? Absolutely. Do I rush people? I don't necessarily rush them. I nudge them along a little bit. All right. So if you said yes to any of these questions, you may be in the habit of reacting rather than responding. Right? When you react, you do what comes naturally, which is going with the emotional part of the brain. That's the limbic part of your brain, just so that you know that, right? When you respond, you act against what is natural, which is why it's difficult. Carla is one of those people who responds. She does something that's a little bit different than it's natural. You engage in the rational part of your brain and you select the best response. So Carla, you get an A+ for today. I like that. Go ahead and type in the comments, Carla, A+. you get an A plus. So if you never got an A plus in school, you're getting one on Talk Leadership with Cedrick and a Cuppa Joe on the radio today. I'm gonna type that in the comments too for Carla. Carla gets an A plus. There you go. That's in the comments today. All right. Carla says, yay. All right. Number 3 of the 5 elements to emotional intelligence is motivation. See, people with a high IQ or high EI, all right, emotional intelligence, are willing to defer immediate results for long-term success. See, they are highly productive. They love a challenge and they're effective in whatever they do. See, developing others, serving as an inspiring leader and a catalyst for change, collaborating with high-performance team, and managing conflict are part of this relationship management, right? See, you are high on this characteristic if others perceive you as likable and if you're able to work well with diverse groups, even in the face of stress and conflict. Oh, man, I got to say that one again because that sentence right there is so critical. You are high on this characteristic if others perceive you as likable and you're able to work well with diverse groups, even in the face of stress and conflict. As you can imagine now, to do this requires the 3 characteristics we've already discussed. But you got to finesse this in dealing. You got to be finesse when dealing with others because everybody's a little bit different and you never know the response, the reaction that you're going to get from someone else. So you have to have a little bit of finesse. See, if you can create and communicate an inspiring vision and help them to do difficult things, such as embrace change, you're definitely high on this characteristic. Casting a vision and then helping people see that vision that you want to take them on. See, it's sort of like telling a story. Les Brown says it pretty good. Telling a story is like taking a person on a journey where they, in their mind, where they can't go by themselves. That's what telling the story does for people. Now, I want to help you out a little bit around this telling the story part. And I want to help you in terms of helping you understand how to grow, how to change your thought process, how to get better in this realm. I'm trying to find the particular story that I want to tell you. Here is right here. So some of you might have heard this before, but some time ago, there was a man that punished his 3-year-old daughter for wasting a roll of gold wrapping paper. See, money was tight and he became frustrated and infuriated when the child tried to decorate a box to put under the Christmas tree. Nevertheless, the little girl brought the gift to her father the next morning and said, "This is for you, Daddy." Now, the man became embarrassed by his overreaction from earlier, but his rage continued when he saw that the box was empty. He yelled at his daughter, "Don't you know that when you give someone a present, there is supposed to be something inside?" Well, the little girl looked back at her father with tears in her eyes and she started crying. She says, "Oh, Daddy, it's not empty at all. I blew kisses in the box and they're all for you, Daddy." Well, the father was crushed, and he should have been. He put his arms around his little girl and he begged her for forgiveness. And only a short time later, an accident took the life of the child. Now, her father kept the gold box by his bed for many years. And whenever he was discouraged and he needed help, he needed a pickup, he would take out the imaginary kisses and to remember the love of the child who put it in the box. Now, the moral of the story is love is the most precious gift in the world. And you need to understand that your emotional intelligence will help you eliminate love from relationships. Your lack of emotional intelligence will help eliminate building stronger relationships with people, right? So how do you fare? What can you further develop to enhance your emotional intelligence and your career performance? I just want you to, you need to understand that. How do you fare? What can you develop to improve your emotional intelligence and improve your overall career performance? All right. Now, number 4 of this 5 on the list is empathy. Right. This is the ability to identify with and understand to understand the wants, the needs, and the viewpoints of all those around you. See, empathetic people avoid stereotyping and judging too quickly, and they live their lives, in an open, honest way. Not everybody can do that, folks. Not everybody has that ability to do that. I just want you to understand that, okay? That's why you have to have a strong emotional intelligence, and we call it an EQ for short. Really, you have to have a strong EQ. Okay, self-awareness is fairly self-evident. Knowing what you feel, why you feel that way, and how those feelings either help or hinder you. It's important for you to understand that. It's important for you to know that. If you don't, folks, you're going to struggle in relationships. And when I say relationships, that's personal relationships and career relationships. Now, we're going to be taking our second break here in just a second. You're listening to IBGR Network, Talk Leadership with Cedrick and a Cuppa Joe on the radio. And you know, everybody needs a little TLC and high energy. And when you have a high EQ, emotional intelligence, people are motivated, inspired, and they transform around you. When they don't, they leave you. We'll be right back after this break. So folks who are listening in on Facebook, who are listening in on LinkedIn, who are listening in on YouTube, we are on a commercial break right now from the radio, but I want to keep going, folks. I'm going to keep talking to you. I was sharing with you part of the 10 ways to increase your emotional intelligence. I shared with two of them with you. Let me share a third one with you. You have to utilize active listening, right? So in conversations, emotional, intelligent people listen for clarity instead of just waiting for their turn to speak. In other words, like Stephen Covey says, you listen to understand and then to be understood. There's a difference, folks. See, they make sure they understand what is being said before responding. They also pay attention to the nonverbal details of a conversation. This prevents misunderstanding and it allows the listener to respond properly, and it shows respect for the person they're speaking to. Now, let me share another one. Number 4. You have to be motivated. See, emotional, intelligent people are self-motivated and their attitude motivates others. In other words, they have a positive mental attitude, PMA, right? They set goals and are resilient in the face of challenges. Number 5 is they practice ways to maintain a positive attitude. See, don't underestimate the power of your attitude. See, a negative attitude easily infects others if a person allows it to. Emotional, intelligent people have an awareness of their moods and of the moods of those around them, and they guard their attitude accordingly. Right? See, they know what they need to do in order to have a good day and have an optimistic outlook. This could include having a great breakfast or a good lunch or engaging in prayer or meditation during the day, helping to keep positive quotes in front of them, positive affirmations around them. This is the difference, folks, in high EQ people. And these are the things you need to do to increase your emotional intelligence. If you're not doing these things, folks, I'm telling you now, you're hurting yourself, you're hurting your career, you're hurting your company, you're hurting all the people that are around you. Now, it's up to you. I mean, I can only tell you so much, but it's up to you. And Carla and I can only tell you so much. The rest is up to you. Carla is, according to Her response is she's a high EQ person. So it's totally up to you. We're going to be coming back from commercial break here in just a second. All right, folks, we are back, and I'm excited that you're listening to us today. You're listening to IBGR Network. IBGR is our call sign, is a radio station, but we are more than a radio station, folks. We are a network. I am your host, Cedrick LaFleur, and you're listening to Talk Leadership with Cedrick and a Cup of Joe on the radio. And let me tell you what, today we're talking about the 5 elements of emotional intelligence. The 5 elements of emotional intelligence. And let me tell you what, folks, people who have a high EQ typically are people who understand how to work outside of their comfort zone. They understand how to get over adversity. They understand how to motivate and inspire other people. Once there was this old man who was broke, living in a tiny house and owned a old beat up car. He was living off about $99 Social Security check every month, right? At the age of 65 years old, he decided things had to change. He needed to do different things. So he thought about what he could offer. His friends raved about his chicken recipe, and he decided this was his best shot at making a change. Right. He left Kentucky and he tried he traveled to different states to try to sell his recipe. He told restaurant owners that he had a mouth-watering chicken recipe and that they had to have it. He offered the recipe to them for free, no charge at all. He just asking for a small percentage of the sales. Right. It sounds like a good idea, right? Yeah, it was a good idea. Unfortunately, not many of the restaurants took him up on it. He heard no over 1,000 times. How many times have you heard no before and you decided to give up and you decided to quit? He heard no over 1,000 times, but not once did he say, I'm quitting, I'm giving up, I'm throwing in the towel. He kept going. Even after all those rejections, he didn't give up. He believed in his chicken recipe, that his chicken recipe was so special. And he got rejected 1,009 times before he heard his first yes. 1,009 times before he heard his first yes. Now think of you. When you hear rejection number 10, you think, oh man, maybe I don't need to do this. Then you get to rejection number 100 and you go, oh man, I really don't need to do it. What about you get to rejection 500? You're like, I really don't need to do this anymore. I'm quitting. I'm going to give up. I'm going to throw in the towel. What about it? Ejection number 753. You're really thinking, okay, it's time for me to go find a new job. Then you get to 1,000, and all of a sudden your significant other, your spouse is saying, you need to go get a new job because this is not going to work out for you. Then you get to 1,009 and you still get a no, but you say, I got one more shot in me, one more time that I'm going to go after this. And that's what he did. He finally got his first yes at customer number 1,010. They said yes. With that one success, Colonel Heartland Sanders changed the way Americans eat chicken. Kentucky Fried Chicken, popularly known as KFC, was born. Remember, never give up and always believe in yourself in spite of rejection. Never give up. You don't quit. You don't give up on the goal. You just change the plan. You may have to change your words. You may have to change what time you go in. You may have to change something you say. You may have to change something that you do, but you never give up. See, people with high emotional intelligence understand this. They don't give up. They don't quit. You have to always believe in yourself. You have to believe that you're stronger than you are. You're smarter than it seems. And you have to understand that you can succeed. It's sort of like the bird sitting on a tree. See, that bird sitting on a tree is not worried about that branch breaking because the bird is not worried about that branch breaking. Her faith is in her wings and her ability to continue to fly. That's the same thing like you. You have to understand it's not the branch that you're sitting on. It's in your abilities, in your skills, in your thought process, and how you do things. That makes the difference. So you don't give up, and you must understand you're stronger than you seem. You're smarter than it appears, and you have the ability to make it happen as long as you believe in yourself. See, people with high EQs, they understand this. They get it. Now, number 5 is on these 5 elements of emotional intelligence is social skills. Right? People with strong social skills are typically team players. See, rather than focus on their own success, they help others to develop and shine. You know, there's a principle that says the goal is more important than the road. Let me hear you say that. The goal is more important than the road. People with high emotional intelligence, they get it. They understand it. They can they can manage disputes. They are excellent communicators, and they are masters at building and maintaining relationships. Let me say that again. They can manage disputes and are excellent communicators and are masters at building and maintaining relationships. You know, Donna, who works here, who runs the radio station, she's one of those people who understands how to manage disputes, and she's an excellent communicator and a master at building and maintaining relationships. She does all of this with all the different personalities here at the radio station. Your organizational awareness, focus on service, and limit of empathy compose your social awareness, right? You got to improve your organizational awareness by fine-tuning your radar for the emotional climate in groups and for recognizing power dynamics. Now, I'm gonna say that again because it's important that somebody out there get this, right? Improve your organizational awareness by fine-tuning your radar for the emotional climate in groups and recognizing power dynamics. You got to improve your service orientation by fine-tuning your radar for your customers or your clients' needs, right? You do this by first and foremost always taking personal responsibility even when things aren't going well. Other strategies to enhance your service orientation include being as available as you can, responsiveness to your customers' needs as much as possible, and coming up with a system to regularly gather feedback from your customers, from your clients, from your employees. See, this is so important in terms of emotional intelligence for people. Sometimes you just don't get it. So you may say, so how do I become a self-aware person? Well, let me tell you, to become a self-aware person, you have to pay attention to, number 1, what you're doing. Number 2, the impact that it's having. Then number 3, then alter your behavior as necessary and become aware of your style under stress. So to become more self-aware, I know some people that I used to work for, they need to understand this, right? They have the titles, but they don't understand self-awareness. They don't understand emotional intelligence. They hear the words, but they don't get it. So you have to understand, what are you doing? The impact that it's having, then alter your behavior as necessary and become aware of your style under stress. See, many of these skills may seem to be best suited for those who are under basic human psychology. Now, let me say that again. Many of these skills may seem to be best suited for those who understand basic human psychology, but high IQ skills may come more easily to naturally empathetic people. That's just no doubt about it. But anyone can develop it. It doesn't matter your age. It doesn't matter your gender. It doesn't matter your race. It doesn't matter your ethnicity. None of that matters. High IQ skills may come more easily to naturally empathetic people, but anyone can develop these skills. See, less empathetic people just have to practice being more self-aware and conscious of how they interact with others. I'm going to say that again because somebody out there needs to hear this. Less empathetic people just have to practice being more self-aware and conscious of how they interact with others. All right? You just can't talk to people any old kind of way and think it's okay. right? I'm just telling you that, folks. When I was younger, I used to, people say, hey, Cedrick, you don't have any tact. Well, you got to learn to develop that. And you got to learn how you speak to people. It doesn't matter who you are, where you are, and how old you are. Now, I was sharing with people while we're on commercial break, 10 ways to increase your emotional intelligence. The first one I said was utilize an assertive style of communicating. Number 2 is respond instead of reacting to conflict. Number 3 was utilize active listening skills. Number 4 was be motivated. Number 5 was practice maintaining a positive mental attitude. And number 6 is practice self-awareness. Emotional intelligent people are self-aware and intuitive, right? They are aware of their own emotions and how they can affect those around them. They also pick up on others' emotions and their body language, and they use that information to enhance their communication skills. Number 7 is they critique well. So you said, well, what is that? What does that mean? See, an important part of increasing your emotional intelligence is to be able to take critique, right? Instead of getting offended or defensive, high EQ people take a few moments to understand where the critique is coming from or how it is affecting others or their own performance and how they can constructively resolve any issues. Now, this one, I will tell you, folks, it takes a lot of work, right? Because there are times where I can be very emotionally calm, cool, and collective, and I stay calm. But then there are times where whoop, whoop, that needle pops, right? And all of a sudden, yeah, you're going to see that other side. Oh, Cedrick, you're so nice and calm. Yeah, well, you see that other side. So don't make that other side come out, folks. We're going to be going to a commercial break here again, folks, in just a few seconds, and then we're going to come back for our final segment. You're listening to Talk Leadership with Cedrick and the Cuppa Joe on the radio, and I am Cedrick LaFleur, your host. And everybody needs a little high energy. Everybody needs a little TLC and high energy. This is IBGR Network. We'll see you right back after commercial. All right, so folks who are listening to us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, I want you to stay tuned with us. We're on a commercial break right now from the radio station, and we'll be right back after this short commercial break. And we're going to come back with session number 4, which is going to round out our day. Now, all day I've been sharing with you some little tidbits and some stories of, with my folks from Louisiana. And I want to tell you about this story. I was traveling in Lafayette, Louisiana, and that place has a lot of crooked streets. They twist and turn streets, right? And just like most small towns in Louisiana, I got to this one intersection and I didn't know which way to go. So I stopped to ask the old man standing on the side of the road. I said, "Sir, if I go down this road to the left, do you know where it's going to take me?" Well, the old man looked at me and he says, "It breaks my heart to tell you, Sonny, but no, I don't know." So I asked him, "Sir, if I go down this road to the right, do you know where it's going to take me?" And the old man looked at me and says, "Yes, sir, it breaks my heart to tell you, but me, no, I don't know also." So I said, "Sir, if I go back down the road I came down, do you know where that's going to take me?" And the old man looked at me again. He says, "Oh, it breaks my heart, Sonny. I got to tell you again, me, sir, I don't know that also." So I looked at the old man and I said, "Well, you don't know much of anything, do you?" Well, the old man looked right back at me and says, "Yes, sir, that may be true, but I ain't lost, no." All right, folks, I got my jokes today, so I need y'all to be laughing at my jokes, all right? All right, let me see here, folks. We're going to be coming back from a commercial break here in about another minute. So let me do this. I'm going to share another story with you. I have a friend that lives down in a lot of friends that live down in South Louisiana, and we always coming up with all kind of stuff and talking about different things and trying to make sure that we're on top of things. And well, I'm not going to be able to tell you that story. I'm going to tell you when we come back from commercial break here. We have 30 seconds and we'll be back live on the radio. So I'm going to hold this story here until we go live here on the radio. So we have 15 seconds and then we'll be back live on the radio for our final segment of Talk Leadership and Cedrick with a Cup of Joe on the radio. Talk Leadership with Cedrick and a Cup of Joe on the radio. We'll be back in 2 seconds. All right, we are back, and I'm excited to be here with you today. You're listening to IBGR Network, and IBGR, folks, is our call sign as a radio station, but we are more than a radio station, folks. We are a network, and I am Cedrick LaFleur, and you're listening to Talk Leadership with Cedrick and a Cup of Joe on the radio. You know, everybody needs a little TLC and some high energy. So we're talking about emotional intelligence today. That's what we've been really diving into the entire show today. Thank you, Carla. I love it. TLC and energy. Great combo. Hey, thank you very much, Carla. You're my number one fan over there today. I appreciate you. That means I might have to have you on the show live one day so then you can bring that high energy with us. A teacher was asking her history class some questions, and she was going around the class, and she was asking this little boy and that little girl and this little girl and that little boy, and finally she got around to my cousin T-Shawn, and she said, T-Shawn, who signed the Declaration of Independence? Well, T-Shawn stood up and he looked at the teacher right in the eye and he goes, me? I don't know, and quite frankly, I don't care. Well, the teacher got upset and she sent T-Shawn to the office, and she said, bring your pawpaw to school with you tomorrow so we can talk about this because I don't like the type of language you're using. So T-Shawn said, okay, no problem. So the next day he brought his pawpaw to school, and the teacher said, please stand in the back of the classroom and act like you're not here and watch how T-Shawn is acting. He said, okay, ma'am. So the teacher started asking questions to the little boys and to the students in the class. And she asked this little boy and that little girl and that little girl and this little boy questions. And again, she got back to my cousin T-Shawn. She said, T-Shawn, who signed the Declaration of Independence? Well, T-Shawn stood up and he looked at the teacher in the eye and replied just like he did yesterday. He says, me, ma'am, I don't know. And quite frankly, I don't care. Well, the teacher looked at Papa and said, you see, please take him in the closet and give him a real good talking to because I don't like his language. So Papa took T-Shawn in the closet and he said, son, look, your grandma don't have much of an education, and me, I don't have any. And when you get into trouble, when you get yourself into trouble, you have to get yourself out the best way that you can. Now, if you sign that paper, you go right in there and you tell that teacher you signed that paper. All right, folks, that's my last one for today. All right, so I was talking about the 10 ways to improve your emotional intelligence. Number 8 is empathize with others. See, emotional intelligent people know how to empathize. They understand that empathy is a trait that shows emotional strength and not weakness. They understand that empathy is a trait that shows emotional strength and not weakness. Empathy helps them to relate to others on a basic human level. That's all people want when they want communication from you, right? It opens the door for mutual respect and understanding between people while differing, even though they may have differing opinions during different situations. Now, number 9 is utilize your leadership skills. See, emotional intelligent people have excellent leadership skills. They have high standards for themselves and they set an example for others to follow. They take initiative and they have great decision making and problem solving skills. This allows for a higher and more productive level of performance in their life, in at work, in their relationships, all over. And number 10, let's get a drum roll. Thank you, drummer. Number 10 is you have to be approachable and sociable. See, emotional, intelligent people come off as approachable. They smile and give off a positive presence. They utilize appropriate social skills based on their relationships with whomever they are around. They have great interpersonal skills, and they know how to communicate clearly, concisely, whether the communication is verbal or nonverbal. See, many of these skills may seem to be suited for those who understand basic human psychology, but they're really not. Everybody can utilize and improve their emotional intelligence. Every person on the planet can. You just have to be willing. You just have to be able. You have to be willing to subordinate yourself and think through the things that can help you improve your emotional intelligence. And let me tell you what, folks, if you're going to get along in this generation, you have to have a high EQ. You have to be one of those leaders who have a high emotional intelligence. If you are not, you're going to find yourself sitting on the outside looking in. And let me tell you what, when you find yourself sitting on the outside looking in, that's not a good thing. You have to learn to appreciate other people. Showing appreciation for your employees assures them that their hard work is being recognized. Employees feel valued, and and feeling appreciated inspires employees to stay longer at a company. And leaders acknowledging others can also cause a ripple effect and increase workplace morale. See, appreciation for your workers can be as simple as congratulating them on the work that they completed on a project, or stating how well they handled a situation with a difficult employee. You have to also be personable. All right. Taking the time to speak to an employee about subjects outside of work makes a leader more personable. All right. Employees will be able to let their guard down, and trust can blossom in a professional setting. See, the law of solid ground says trust is the foundation of leadership. Character makes trust possible. Trust makes leadership possible. Without it, they don't work together. See, as a leader, it also allows you to practice your listening and social skills. When interacting with an employee, ask open-ended questions. Elaborate more on a subject of interest, right? For instance, do not just ask how someone's family is doing, but ask how a specific family member is doing. How's their wife? How's their son? How's their daughter? That type things. And then last thing is, folks, you have to be realistic. See, business leaders should strive for perfection, but they must accept that it's not always achievable. Let me say that again. Business leaders must strive for perfection, but they must accept that it is not always achievable. It is essential to support employees on the path of success, but not pressure them where they feel failure, where they fear failure, right? See, setting realistic goals will give employees insight into what is expected of them and what a leader feels they can accomplish. That's important. Remember, failure provides team members the opportunity to use their creativity and understand that what works and what doesn't work. That's just the way it is, folks. And I just want to tell you, see, you have to understand your emotional intelligence. You have to understand how to connect with people. I don't care who you are, how good you think you are. If you cannot connect with people, folks, it's just not gonna work. I'm just telling you. You know, there was a little boy that had a very bad temper, and his father decided to hand him a bag of nails, and he said, every time you lose your temper, you're going to have to hammer a nail into the fence. Well, on the first day, the little boy hammered 37 nails into the fence. Now, the boy gradually began to control his temperature over the next few weeks, and the number of nails he was hammering into the fence slowly decreased. Now, he discovered it was easier to control his temper than to hammer those nails into a fence. Well, finally, the day came when the boy didn't lose his temper at all. He told his father the good news, and the father suggested that the boy should now pull all the nails out every day when he kept his temper under control. You see how he switched that around on him? See, the days passed, and the young man finally was able to tell his father the great news that all the nails were gone. The father took his son by the hand and led him to the fence. Here's what he said. You have done well, my son, but look at the holes in this fence. The fence will never be the same. When you say things in anger, they leave a scar just like this one, pointing to the fence, right? You can put a knife in a man and draw it out. It won't matter how many times you say, I'm sorry, the wound is still there. Let me say that again. He told his son, well done, son. You did a great job. But look at the holes in the fence. See, the fence will never be the same. When you say things in anger, they leave a scar just like the ones he put in that fence. He says, you can put a knife in a man and draw it out. It won't matter how many times you say, I'm sorry, the wound is still there. The moral of the story is you have to control your anger and don't say things to people in the heat of the moment that you may regret later. Some things in life you're unable to take back. And that's why, folks, emotional intelligence is so important. This is why, folks, you have to change what you do, how you do, when you do, and why you do. And then you have to take this, folks, and take it to another level. You have to then start implementing this. You have to work on it. You got to practice. It's just like setting any goal, folks. In order to get better, you have to do better. You can't just always say, I'm sorry, and apologize and think that's going to be okay. You have to take yourself to a whole nother level. If you want to take yourself and your relationships to another level, folks, you have to do different. You have to do better. You have to be better. That's just the way it is, folks. I'm sorry to tell you. I'm not sorry to tell you. I'm happy to tell you, folks, that when you change and when you grow and you get better, things change around you. People change around you. All of a sudden, people don't leave. People stay. People want to stay because they love being around you. Now, this is the end of the show on IBGR. Today, I want to thank you guys. You can have a great rest of your day, great weekend. But for my social media folks, we're going to continue. Thank you for listening to IBGR today. So, folks, let me tell you what. When you want to change, when you want to get better, you can. Carla, I hear you say, I had a boss like that. Let me put it up on the screen. I had a boss like that made a huge difference in the people's morale. Absolutely. And I love what you said. You appreciate and celebrate. When you appreciate people and you celebrate them, man, things change. All of a sudden, they love being around you. All of a sudden, they don't want to leave the company. They can get a higher paying job somewhere else, but they're saying, no, I'm staying right here because this person values me. This person respects me. Emotionally strong people honor their relationships while at the same time guarding against letting others control them, especially in difficult relationships, folks. It just works. It's just a whole lot better. And let me tell you what, if you can't get your emotional intelligence, if you won't get your emotional intelligence in control, it's going to damage relationships. It's going to change things. It's going to change people that are around you. It's going to make people think totally different about being around with and for you in your company. Now, if you're okay with people just leaving your company, then you continue to have a low emotional intelligence. But when you want people to be around you and you want to take people to a whole nother level, you have to understand that you have to change. You have to understand that you have to do something different. And it's not the people's fault, folks. It is the leader's responsibility to change, to get better, to do things that's a whole lot different in your life. And let me tell you what, when you do, there are things that just happen. There are things that gets better in your relationships for people and around people and through people. Now, I've had a good time talking with you today, and I could be here for the rest of the day talking to you around this subject as well. But let me tell you what, I know that you have other things that you want to go do. I know that, you have other things that you'd like to get done. I'm going to share these things with you, and I want to tell you, you have to encourage employees to establish. You have to encourage employees so that you can establish a good foundation around them, right? And I just want to tell you, folks, when you do that, it changes things for you and for the people that you lead. Thank you, guys, and you have a good rest of your day. Thank you. Bye-bye.